Hi, welcome to video 4 of my sourdough series, where I help you achieve that long coveted golden loaf of sourdough bread that comes from your very own kitchen. In today's video, I wanted to share with you just one more thing that you can make with discarded sourdough starter. If you've been following along with my other videos, videos 1, 2, and 3 covered the fundamentals of sourdough, how to get your sourdough started, and with something called sourdough starter. And then the third video covered one thing to make with your sourdough discard, and that was crackers that we made. And today we're going to be making sourdough pancakes. So if you've been following along, you know that your mason jar is what you were getting your sourdough starter started in, and it's been steadily growing. And part of the cycle of feeding a sourdough starter means that some of it has to be discarded and then more flour and water is added, and that is a continuous cycle that needs to happen to keep a starter active, bubbly, and happy. And so I have an active, bubbly, happy starter here, and I'm going to be using some of this to make pancakes. I'm going to show you how. Now, what's different about these pancakes is that there is a little bit of advanced planning required. You are going to be actually starting something called the sponge the night before you want to make your pancakes, and that is simply mixing your sourdough starter with some flour and water together and putting that aside and allowing that to ferment overnight, and it'll become really nice and bubbly. And then in the morning, we're going to mix it with eggs and some oil, and we're going to fry up our pancakes just like normal pancakes and enjoy just a really beautiful buttermilk sourdough pancake that is just delicious. So let's get started making pancakes. This recipe will yield about 12 medium pancakes. So if you need to feed more people than 12 pancakes will feed, then you can certainly double this recipe. But I have only 2 people to feed, so I am going to actually just make 12. And then what I will do with the leftovers is put them in a Ziploc bag and just freeze them. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of buttermilk. And then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 cup of flour, and then I'm going to need 1/2 of a cup of sourdough starter. And that's it. I'm just going to mix all this together, cover it with a cloth, leave it out on my counter overnight, and just let that sit until the morning when I complete the process. So it's going to be kind of thick, but that's it. That's all I need to do tonight. And then in the morning, I'm just going to remove my cloth, and look how nice and bubbly the sponge is. It's got some good bubbles there. It's active. And now I'm just going to add the rest of the ingredients. I've got some butter and some baking soda, some salt, and an egg. And I'm going to beat the eggs and add those to my sponge. And then I mentioned earlier adding oil, but you can also add butter, and that's what I'm doing here. I actually prefer butter. And now I'm going to add the baking soda, and then lastly some salt. And I'll have all the quantities for all of this down below, so don't worry about writing it all down. So I'm going to incorporate all of my ingredients and give that a good stir. Now I find this fairly thick, so I'm going to add a little bit of water to this to just kind of thin it out to the consistency that I like. And you can add milk if you prefer, but we want to just incorporate that and get ready to cook. So make sure your griddle is nice and hot, and I take a paper towel and put a little oil on and distribute it over my griddle this way. I find it's just a nice even layer without any runoff. And then I'm going to add my pancake batter, a couple of tablespoons or so per pancake. Again, I'm going to make about 12 pancakes with this size batter here, so that's about what you're shooting for. And when you've got some bubbles on top, that is the perfect time to turn them, and look at that nice brown color. I like them that color. If you like them lighter, of course, don't cook them as long. Again, a couple of tablespoons per pancake. Another way to test for doneness is to simply take your spatula and stick it underneath and kind of lift it up and peek and see what color it is before you make that commitment to turn the pancake over. Now these are a little bit darker, but you know, again, do it to your liking. And then I just like to add a little bit of butter and maple syrup to my pancakes, and now you can get creative and start adding whatever you want. So there you have it, sourdough pancakes. Really not much different than regular pancakes, except that we start the dough the night before, make that sponge, allow it to sit overnight, and then finish it in the morning. Really easy to make and so delicious. What I really like about these pancakes is the fact that this batter is allowed to sit overnight and ferment and therefore break down the grains into more digestible particles. I find these pancakes a little bit easier to digest and they don't kind of bloat me out the next day. Not that I can eat more, but I do find them to just not be so heavy and are a little bit easier to tolerate. So perhaps you will too. But either way, they have a great little tang flavor that regular pancakes don't have. Not much, but just a little bit. I love my pancakes with chopped nuts and maple syrup and butter. That's my favorite way to eat them. But I can also see them being so delicious with fresh raspberries and maybe taking some of those raspberries and making a puree out of them. You can strain the seeds or not, depending on how you tolerate those. But I think that would be delicious too, like a raspberry sauce with fresh raspberries, maybe some sliced almonds or something. Oh my gosh, that would be so delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope you'll give it the old thumbs up down below by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do so by clicking the subscribe and also the little bell down below so that you can be notified when future videos are uploaded. Of course, share this video with a friend and stay tuned for the next video because we're going to be baking that golden loaf of bread I've promised you that we're going to be making. So that's coming up real soon. So look out for that. Video 5 coming up soon. So again, thank you for watching and take care. Bye.